Shalom everyone, welcome back to another episode of After Hours. Much obliged for you to join me today. I've got a great show lined up for you today. Before we get into that, just like to take a look at a couple of responding comments from the last video where we were talking about exorcism, deliverance, Amish hemp farmers. If you haven't seen it already, go check it out. We had a couple of comments come through, and I just thought it's worth touching on a couple of really good points, a couple of good questions. First of all, we got Small Island Dweller. I'm going to abbreviate the comment, but they asked, when you talk about deliverance ministries, do you believe that people can be delivered by those not walking in covenant? If we don't teach them to walk in covenant, aren't we adding to the deception? So I could give you my own anecdotal answer to that. I'm sure the teachers of the fellowship would be happy to get into it scripturally, but for me personally, I think in order to be walking in the power of the Holy Spirit to its fullest, I do believe that a degree of covenant keeping and obedience is definitely needed and necessary. And quite often I would refer to the aftercare package, what I would refer to as the aftercare package of if we are going out and we're casting out demons and we're, proclaiming the gospel and healing and doing all of the work, we need to be explicit in the rules of engagement when it comes to the gospel message, salvation and sanctification and the long road that can possibly lead ahead for an individual receiving deliverance in that form. So that would be my explanation in a nutshell. If anyone would care to add on to that, then by all means. Another great point by Yah ought to believe, is a believer making their living in cannabis much different than somebody who works at a pub or as a server at a restaurant where pork is on the menu? Are believers responsible for serving people something we would not use ourselves? Great questions. I think you're after my job with those. What do you guys think? Because where do you draw the line with regards to how we engage within the world with our careers and vocations, and how that could possibly either contravene or break Torah, and where those lines are? So. I just thought a really couple of good points there, and obviously I'm always opening the invitation to those to contribute. So it's much appreciated. Again, more food for thought. So today's episode, we've got an area in which we've touched on before, in the realms of artificial intelligence and technology, Elon Musk, and we've looked at previously some of the more, I'd say, technological elements to it, and today I thought it'd be a good opportunity with some suggestions to look at perhaps the more spiritual element to the backdrop that's facilitating these moves in technology. So shout out Dan, he sent us a link through suggesting today's topic. It's something that I've been interested in over a period of time, and it'd be great to explore. So with that being said, we're going to get into artificial intelligence, the singularity, as it were, transhumanism, the movement towards a transhumanist agenda, and the spiritual weaving within that. So just for some context and some backdrop, so the technological singularity is a hypothetical future point in time at which technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible, resulting in unforeseeable consequences for human civilization. Now, according to the most popular version of the singularity hypothesis, I.J. Good's intelligence explosion model, an upgradable intelligent agent will eventually enter a runaway reaction of self-improvement cycles, each new and more intelligent generation appearing more and more rapidly causing an explosion in intelligence and resulting in a powerful superintelligence that qualitatively far surpasses all human intelligence. So the singularity in this race and this drive towards a technological advancement is something that's been debated for a long period of time by scholars and people in popular culture alike, often popularized in films and TV. We've got the infamous Terminator with the Skynet infrastructure and this story of an intelligence coming into the world and having this rogue intelligence possess, if you like, robots who then enter into a war of apocalyptic proportions. You've also got similar hypothesis in the Matrix films, where you've got this coming together of man and machine in order to advance and complete a cycle or a pathway. A lot of these movies and stuff have so much Gnostic components to them, which again, on the face of it, can even seem like quite biblical and quite harmless. But when you actually look at the subcontext, a lot of the time there's a lot of insidious, New Age theology wrapped up in that. And with this, there can be a lot of sensationalism with regards to quite what's taking place with regards to technology, and it can be, presented as this, the evil robots are going to take over. But as I said at the start, I wanted to look at more of the spiritual long game in terms of where we find ourselves today and the mystical applications to what's actually taking place. So with that, what we're going to do, I'm just going to read some excerpts from a book called Seeing Through the Singularity, Uncovering the Cosmic Conspiracy by a gentleman called Dr. Douglas Haugen. There you go. It's a great read. It's a very comprehensive insight into all things transhumanism and the implications on society, and it's written from a Christian perspective as well. Very thorough and a great read. So before we get into the Elon Musk and that train of thought, I just wanted to set the tone with some excerpts in terms of the spiritual backdrop. So get a cuppa on. It's story time. So Seeing Through the Singularity connects some core themes. So biopolitics, communitarianism, human purification, and cosmic gateways with the practices and ultimate directive of the cosmic conspiracy, the technological singularity, now being announced to the public, which again is something we're gonna get into. We have argued that since the 19th century, biopower has been employed upon the human population. Biopower, simply put, is the modern scientific appropriation of ancient techniques of social control over bodies, minds, and spirits, or consciousness, towards certain eschatological ends, namely the campaign of Armageddon, transhumanism, and cosmic inversion. So end times, the amalgamation of man and machine, and the inversion of the true singularity of everybody being reunited with God the Father via Jesus Christ. So the political application of biopolitics working throughout the world today is communitarianism, which is a synthesis of collectivistic thought forms and practices of the 20th century, i.e. communism and fascism. And again, if you look at the role in which progressive politics normally goes from its progressivism into these areas of socialism, and then you're in the realms of fascism, and then eventually communism. So the objective of communitarians are comprehensive. control over the human population under the theocratic rule of Talmudic Kabbalah. Now, the communitarian techniques of control are employed mightily within Christian churches in order to make Christians the essential catalyst that solidifies the New World Order, which could actually be quite a controversial viewpoint. Now, why Talmudic Kabbalah? Why Christians? It says that even the very elect will be deceived in the end times. And when we talk about Kabbalah, we're talking about the Gnostic mystic practice that was a derivative of the oral law, the Talmudic principles, intermingled with ancient Babylonian practices, magic and esoteric occult practices. Now, the Kabbalistic vision for the New World Order appears to be taken from the Book of Revelation. In the book, it highlights aspects of this vision: financial control of humanity under an antichrist, whose number will be 666, who will demand allegiance from all humanity. Those who deny the Mashiach will be executed. As unbelievable as this sounds, this vision is now being externalized with little attention given. In fact, according to the Book of Revelation, the world will be deceived and give itself over to the New World Order system. Many will trade the image of God for the image of the beast. And we, of course, are seeing the first glimpses of that. Again, just off the top, I'm not here saying anything is necessarily the mark of the beast, but we are in some curious times where we're seeing some very strong precursors to the potentiality of that in a not too distant future, perhaps. Now, Kabbalists combine ancient techniques of social control with advances in modern science, biopower, to bring about the campaign of Armageddon, transhumanism, and cosmic inversion. Now, for me personally, I'm very much an advocate of, throw away your images of cauldrons and broomsticks, rabbits being pulled out of hats when it comes to magic, because what we are now seeing with regards to sorcery and magic, it's so deeply interwoven with technology and modern endeavors in the world of science, or science so-called. Their ultimate aims are metaphysical, to bring heaven to earth, which is accomplished through the unification of the Sephirot. The unification of the Sephirot requires the apprehension of human consciousness trained upon these ends. Now, those of you may be familiar with esoteric knowledge. The Sephirot is essentially, I'm abbreviating massively, but is essentially the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And this is a system in which many practicing esoteric principles use this system and formula as a way of ascending spiritually to an end, higher power, essentially. So with that being said, this is the main focus. So modern scientific equipment, e.g. nanotechnology, nanoparticles, neurolace, quantum computing, quantum entanglement, and nervous system manipulation, so that's television, internet, social media, are merely expressions of biopower aimed at directing human consciousness towards the inversion of the cosmic order through the inversion of Logos, which is Jesus Christ. Seeing through the singularity has introduced a concept of an egregore that we defined as an evolving thought form or collective group mind that possesses an autonomous psychic influence upon the human population. Biopolitics facilitates the creation and evolution of thought forms that advance the power and direction of the egregore. Now, the evolution of these thought forms begins in the city. In fact, the Hebrew words for egregore are angel and city, or angel over the city. In the ancient world, the spirits were incorporated into the Greco-Roman pantheon as metaphysical entities created with a particular theme or purpose, which sounds like Ephesians 6 territory if you ask me. In the 19th century, biopolitics expanded the thought form into the spirit of the nation state. In the 20th century, the thought form was expanded into the imperial visions of the communist and fascist new man. In the 21st century, communitarians employ biopolitics to unite city and cosmos to create the current and final thought form, the egregore of earthly Jerusalem, in brackets, the NWO. So the principle of a thought form is absolutely fascinating because it's something that sways and manipulates and positions popular opinion, culture, practices in so many ways. It can be in music, it can be in politics. I think we can look at the pandemic over the couple of years ago. That is high end chaos magic, if you ask me. That's high end sorcery. There's some serious egregores taking place there. So yeah, this premise of a thought form and egregore and how that can essentially hack the mainframe of humanity, if you like, and this is what could be colloquially referred to as the hive mind. It's literally when people start moving in algorithms in ways that are just spooky, and this is the spiritual backdrop to that. Anything else we should touch on before we move on? Okay, let's get into the Techno Serpent. So, according to Rabbi Michael Laitman, all of humanity is one. It is one ancient Babylonian family that must unite and return to Babylon through the language and light of Kabbalah. Now, the science of Kabbalah is said to contain the ancient blueprint that reveals the secrets to the universe. It is the key that unlocks consciousness to the awareness of oneness between creation and creator. Kabbalah cites the source of this interconnecting of all things in the light of Ein Sof that emanates from Kether. Now, Ein Sof is the supreme deity, and if you want to get into Antichrist spirit, that's the one basically, because in Kabbalistic tradition, it's the Ein Sof that created our creator Elohim, Adonai, Yahweh. So you've already got this usurping at the highest echelons of Kabbalistic thought, which is one of those ones. It's like you can work at McDonald's and you've never met Ronald McDonald. You could be a low-ranking Freemason and not know that at the top of the pyramid is Lucifer himself. I believe it's my opinion that within even the realms of Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism, you could probably find some truth, you could probably find some wisdom, but at the top, at the end game, is a very antichrist principle and a supremely interwoven spiritual network that actually underpins a lot of movements that are taking place in today's culture. And we see that within the New Age movement, within spiritual movements, and we see it within technology. Anyway, I digress. Kabbalah's monad of pure energy has been repackaged into today's quantum science and the study of interconnection of all things. Again, this is the main focus. Quantum physics is the observation of invisible particles such as atoms, electrons, monads, quarks, superstrings, frequencies, vibrations that exist in another dimension, and the effect of those particles on the material world by the observer. We have stressed that quantum technology is an extension of biopower employed for certain eschatological ends. Deanne Loper notes, now Deanne Loper, she wrote a great book, in my opinion, of Kabbalah secrets Christians need to know. She says, because everything is made of atoms, we are all one at the subatomic level. We are all part of this force of light that connects and holds everything together. In effect, quantum science appears to be a manipulation of forces in the invisible spirit world by observers in the physical material world, by scientists, mystics, or unknowing participants. The new discoveries in quantum physics are the externalization of those entities that Theosophy, which is a very strong New Age movement of the last century, says will bring about an entirely new planetary initiation. Alice Bailey, who was one of the pioneers and forerunners of the New Age movement in modern times, says, because everything is connected, matter and spirit exists in one continuous reality, an endless spectrum of divine consciousness. The interaction of science and Kabbalah will raise the sparks and the beasts. In other words, the alchemical merger of man and technology will raise the techno serpent. And we're not talking about some German disco snake. It's literally the seed of the serpent, which is a highly prophetic story and backdrop to what's taking place today. Together, scientific discovery and technology are actual living entity with a collective consciousness of its own. It is a beast, a very powerful one. It is the king of beasts. The techno serpent has risen from the dust, and Adam's higher consciousness will, directed by the providential force of Mashiach ben Yosef, ride out to the finishing line of the 6th millennial day into the 7th cosmic day of creation, a real and full rectified high dimension of existence and consciousness. According to Deanne Loper, raising the techno serpent is the aim of the technological singularity. The conscious singularity, constantly expanding and contracting from darkness to light, is Ein Sof, the god of Kabbalah. Interwoven into this twisted Torah script is Metatron of the Kabbalist and the kosher serpent, whom the rabbis say will return, but whom Jesus Christ in Revelation calls the great dragon, the old serpent, the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. We have argued that only human consciousness can open gateways between worlds. However, biopower and technology are necessary to facilitate and direct the Singularity project. So, yeah, a lot of stuff going on there, but essentially it's as I said, the spiritual backdrop behind what's taking place. And I think it made a good point about the combination of scientists, mystics, or unknowing participants. Now, what we touch on today is a case of trying to discern and find out which one of the major proponents that comes under, and what is the intentionality of these moves, and how much knowledge is there of the individuals that are propelling this singularity, this transhumanist agenda. Because bearing in mind, a lot of political movements, a lot of these political heavyweights are all on the same page. They're all moving towards the same agenda, which is a transhumanist one. It's just dressed up with slightly different bells and whistles, whether it's the lefty progressive, whether it's the right conservative. They're all funded by the same companies with going in the same direction. So with that being said, I want to just touch on that just for some context with regards to what we're now going to look at. Because, yeah, it's been in the news, it's been reported, and let's take a look. So those of you might be familiar have heard of Neuralink. Again, this may not be new to you, but I think just looking at it with that spiritual lens. And by the way, with all of that being said, I advocate looking at all of these principles yourself. The book that I just cited, have a look, have a read. If you've not familiarized yourself with that area, then by all means, if you're led, because it is fascinating, in my opinion, and it's good to know what's going on. So with that being said, let's crack on and get into the video.
Neuralink just reached one of its biggest milestones so far, and they've started to recruit people for their first human trial. Elon Musk recently mentioned that he's got the FDA's stamp of approval just a few months ago, and Neuralink is officially on a hunt for its first human pioneers, dubbed the Prime Study. This 6-year journey aims to revolutionize the world of tech, medicine, and human-machine interaction. But what exactly does the future hold for this amazing technology? Let's find out. Neuralink is moving full steam ahead. They've secured the necessary approvals, not just from an independent ethical review board, but also from a partnering neighboring hospital. This is quite a leap forward, especially considering they just got the FDA's thumbs up in May to kick off their first human-focused clinical study. The 6-year initial trial, which is being called the PRIME study, aims to test Neuralink tech designed to help those with paralysis control devices. The study focuses on 3 components: the N1 implant, a brain-computer device, the R1 robot, responsible for implanting the device, and the N1 user app, translating brain signals into computer actions. Neuralink wants to ensure these tools are both safe and effective.
So right off the bat, you've got the intentionality being presented as something of a good moral standard, i.e. to help people with certain diseases and afflictions and to help them function in the modern world.
One of the main goals of the brain-computer interface is to give people who have quadriplegia because of a cervical spinal cord injury or ALS the chance to control computer cursors or keyboards solely with their thoughts. Neuralink has mapped out quite a comprehensive game plan for their main study. Right after the device is implanted, an 18-month primary study period kicks off. During this time, every 2 months, patients will check in with a medical team. This isn't just a quick "how do you do," it's to closely monitor progress and to ensure that the Neuralink device is working as it should. The patients will be going through 1-hour BCI research sessions, not once, but at least twice a week for those 18 months. And once that primary study wraps up, there's no slowing down. The next phase, which is the long-term follow-up, starts right away. This will involve 4 clinical visits yearly over the duration of the study. Over the next 5 years, the study has 2 main goals. First, to see how safe the M1 implant and the R1 surgical robot are, and second, to figure out if the Neuralink tech can actually help those with complete body paralysis control devices just by thinking. One of the significant milestones will be witnessing the Neuralink R1 robot operating on a human for the first time. The whole procedure will be carried out by a surgical robot called the R1. The robot was specially designed by Neuralink to embed the implant and its 64 ultra-thin flexible connected threads, upon which there are 1,024 electrodes that record neural activity.
On the left is the view of the insertion area, and on the right, what the robot's going to do is it's going to peel the array, the threads, one by one from its silicon backing and insert it into the targets that we predetermined in the targeting view. So there you go. That's the first insertion. So we're going to see a couple more insertions. The whole process of inserting about 64 threads in our first product is going to be around 15 minutes for this robot.
The robot then delicately places the M1 implant into the outer layer of your brain, known as the cortex. This part of the brain controls our body's movements.
See, my first thought is like, if it takes a robot to put it in there, I would imagine it would take a robot to like get it out. What if, for whatever reason, you've got hundreds of thousands of people with these chips, and then the robots are no longer there, and you're stuck with this chip in your head? I mean,
In the procedure, a small section of the skull is temporarily removed, and there's interaction with the brain's protective layer, known as the dura mater. Initially, Neuralink considered bypassing it, but they've since decided to work with it. Once the procedure is done and the M1 device is fit inside the skull, the skin's then stitched back, making the device virtually undetectable. What's especially impressive is that this pioneering surgical procedure will allow the N1 implant to seamlessly transmit and pick up brain signals, all done wirelessly through Bluetooth. These signals will then connect to Neuralink's app, turning brain activity into computer commands. The main objective of the PRIME study is to empower people to control a computer cursor and keyboard solely with their thoughts. Elon Musk, the brains behind Neuralink, didn't miss a beat, broadcasting this milestone on his social media channel, now called X. According to him, it won't be long before the first patient gets a Neuralink device, opening up the potential to bring back full body movement. Elon believes it has the potential to address issues like blindness, paralysis, and even mental health concerns, such as depression. But beyond these therapeutic applications, Musk's vision extends to the broader population. He speaks of a future where Neuralink devices are not just made for medical interventions, but can link the human mind directly to powerful supercomputers. He's looking at the bigger picture with Neuralink, hoping it could be the bridge between human thought and advanced artificial intelligence. On his platform, X, Elon shared a thought-provoking idea. If we ever create a super smart computer, our current ways of communicating, like typing or talking, just wouldn't be fast enough. We'd need a direct instant link from our brain to that AI. Musk also pointed out the possibilities if someone like Stephen Hawking had access to technology like Neuralink. Hawking, as we all know, was one of the most brilliant minds in history, but had significant limitations in communication due to his condition. Yet, he made groundbreaking contributions to theoretical physics and cosmology. The reason why Musk mentions Hawkins to underscore Neuralink's potential is because Neuralink's technology promises to unlock this potential by providing a more direct and efficient means of communication.
I mean, again, on paper, a lot of people will be looking at this saying, well, it's for the benefit of the individual physically, for those who are suffering, and it could lead to other advancements. And again, when you don't have a biblical backdrop or a context for what's taking place in terms of the fallen nature of the world and how sin has come into the world and is at the root of all of these ailments and difficulties, you start to play God, and we've spoken about this before, about man's appropriation and working with the enemy in terms of playing God in various different ways. And another element that I considered is the impact of physical difficulties on ourselves and other people, and how this can affect the human condition in the sense that when there are those who are suffering and in affliction and who either overcome or don't, the impact that this has on society and other people is massive, whether it can be stories of inspiration, whether it's moments of gratitude, what it means to serve and to care and to love those who are who are more in need than us. All of these undesirable facets of the fall of man, and how God uses all of these things, not because he necessarily wants to punish or inflict this on people. It's a result of a damaged world, but yet he uses all of these things very gracefully so that we can grow and learn and be human, to make mistakes and to suffer and to overcome, and all of these tropes which could over a period of time be negated and turned into this vanilla, utopian, robotic, everybody's the same, no death, no disease, in this nightmarish scenario of existence. So that's one of my one of the thoughts that troubles me with this.
Surpassing current alternatives like head mice or eye tracking systems. Such technologies, while innovative, don't offer the same seamless connection Neuralink might provide. But Musk's vision doesn't stop at just communication. He's thinking about how Neuralink's brain tech could team up with Tesla's humanoid robot, Optimus. To explain this, he referenced a famous scene from The Empire Strikes Back, where Luke Skywalker gets a robotic hand that works almost as good as the original. Similarly, Neuralink could help close the gap between us humans and machines. Imagine if we could use our thoughts to control machines as naturally as moving our own limbs. It's like leveling up our abilities and breaking free from the limits of our flesh and bone. According to recent reports, Neuralink is
Again, that element of leveling up, of ascending, of becoming more than just human, that the existence of human is not enough, that there is a form of transcendence and an ascendancy that's taking place. And, you know, that's why I touched on the outset with regards to mystic philosophies and the indoctrination of people through these means. That, you know, Yeshua said that there's only one way to the Father, and that's through him. He is the door. And all of these ways, in essence, are the circumnavigating of coming to one with the Father, and through repentance, through the shed blood of the Lamb, essentially, that is how we return back as a prodigal people, as a bride that needs to be washed and cleansed, purified, and brought back to our rightful place. Whereas this is the doctrine of the fallen ones. This is satanic at its very core. What did he say? That I will ascend and be like God, and this is how this doctrine is permeated through all of these mystic philosophical religions and practices, and how they've infiltrated many faiths and popular culture. As I said, like I've only got so much in which I can try and condense, but it's just such a wide-ranging backdrop to where we find ourselves.
Is on the hunt for at least 10 volunteers. They're looking for individuals 22 years or older to be a part of the Prime study, which will span for 6 years. Now, at its core, Neuralink's mission isn't just about bridging the gap between the human brain and technology. It's about harnessing that technology to dramatically improve the lives of those with disabilities. For many people living with disabilities, especially those affecting communications and motor functions like ALS or paralysis, everyday tasks can become huge challenges. Being unable to communicate one's thoughts, needs, or emotions can be isolating, leading to a diminished quality of life. This is where Neuralink's technology shows its true potential. By providing a direct interface between the brain and computers, Neuralink offers the promise of restoring lost abilities. For instance, a person with paralysis might regain the ability to type out messages, controlling smart home devices, or even browse the web using only their thoughts. Beyond mere communication, the technology could provide a means to engage more fully with the world, from pursuing education and employment opportunities to participating in social and recreational activities. For those with quadriplegia, due to conditions like ALS, the current methods of interfacing with computers are not only expensive, but also limiting. Neuralink's technology could revolutionize this, not by curing the condition, but by drastically improving the quality of life for the afflicted.
He's learned to interact with a computer for a tasty banana smoothie delivered through a straw. We can interact with the Neuralink.
Somebody's got some footage of me having my breakfast this morning.
Just as you might pair your phone to a Bluetooth speaker.
As demonstrated with monkeys playing Pong using Neuralink, the promise for human applications is endless. However, it's essential to approach some of Musk's claims with caution. While the visionary CEO speculates about Neuralink reversing conditions like
and again, it's that typical scene that you see in many films where it's a well-intentioned scientist or somebody who comes across a miraculous discovery, and he or she has plans to help the world with the cure or the invention, and then the evil mastermind sweeps in and uses it for malevolent forces. And it's again, that's what you see here, where it's like we can help so many people. It's going to help improve the quality of lives of so many, and it's the long game. It's the end goal that you need to sort of focus on with this one.
ALS, multiple sclerosis, or even Alzheimer's, these claims are forward-looking and not yet proven. These diseases' complexities mean that while Neuralink could play a role in treatment or alleviation, cures are a different ballgame. One of the fundamental challenges is our limited understanding of the brain. It's an incredibly complex organ, and even the academic world has not fully unraveled its intricacies. So, when we talk about integrating it with technology, the challenges multiply. From the physical concerns of implant surgery and the body's possible rejection of foreign materials to the broader societal implications, there's a lot to consider here. Ethical concerns also loom large. In an era where personal data is increasingly vulnerable, the concept of a company or entity having access to, potentially modifying or influencing human thoughts raises legitimate worries about personal identity, autonomy, and privacy. The more we integrate BCIs into our daily lives, the more vulnerable we become to potential hacking or unauthorized access to our thoughts and intentions. To safeguard against brain hacking, BCIs must implement robust security measures. Encryption of neural signals, authentication protocols, and intrusion detection systems are some of the key elements needed to protect the integrity of the brain-device communication channel. On top of that, strict regulations and oversight are necessary to ensure that BCIs adhere to ethical standards. And
that's absolute. It's madness, because if you look at the wild west of the internet and technology and hacking and the culture around that now, it's like, okay, so you can't guarantee a safe and secure unit within a computer or a phone, like 100%. But yet you're willing to then transfer the same principle into humans, like, and not guarantee that we can't be hacked, or to have intrusive things put into us, or for our privacy to be compromised. All of these elements, which are so far from being guaranteed, it's just so sketchy.
And prioritize user privacy and consent. But if you think the risk is worth the reward, here's how you can sign up for the Neuralink trial. A whole study will take about 6 years, and during this period, they'll check in on you roughly 2 dozen.
And you know people are going to be queuing up for this. They are not going to be short of people volunteering for this at all.
Times to ensure the brain device is functioning as planned. So, who can participate? Neuralink is primarily on the lookout for people who've lost movement in their arms and legs because of a serious injury or a condition named ALS. If that's been the case for over a year and you've seen no improvement, this could be your chance. But you've got to be at least 22 years old and have a trustworthy person to assist and care for you during the study. There are certain conditions that make it a no-go though. If you've had gadgets inside your heart like pacemakers or devices stimulating the brain, or if you've had seizures before, you won't qualify. Also, those undergoing certain treatments like regular MRIs or a different method known as transcranial magnetic stimulation can't participate. But to truly determine if you're a fit, head to Neuralink's website and fill out their form, and they'll guide you from there.
Or if you've got any belief in the Bible whatsoever, you wouldn't go near this. So that's basically the explanation and overview of the Neuralink. Again, it's just mad to see this come to fruition in our time. This was literally out of movies and books, and now we're seeing the beginnings of of what this step in transhumanism is gonna look like. Now, as I was reading excerpts from the book earlier, touched on the interesting question about intentionality. Whether it be from scientists, from mystics, or those who are unknown contributors to this direction, which brings me on to an interview with Elon Musk himself, where some very good questions are posed to him, and we'll just get into maybe discovering a bit more about is this somebody who does have good intentions, who really is trying to facilitate a move with a perspective of helping others, or is he a high level elite sorcerer from a deep bloodline who's being manipulated and used by principalities in high places? I think it's a good question, but we'll have a look at this interview and get into some elements of that.
I'll be honest, of all the things you do and all the companies you run, I think it's all awesome. The one thing that does concern me, and I know concerns a lot of people out there, so I do have to bring it up, which is Neuralink.
Sure.
So firstly, can you explain what Neuralink is and what the goal of it is?
We put a chip in your brain to control your mind. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Concerns not alleviated.
Yeah, there you go. Jump right in. Step right up. Who wants one? So Neuralink, you'll be able to see Neuralink coming from a very long distance, because any device that you implant in a human you have to go through so many tests. It moves very slowly. You just do a few people at a time, and then you go to extreme lengths to prove.
Yeah, but like a train from a distance, you can see that coming, but it still takes you out of the game once it arrives. So I'm not straight off the bat. It's like, oh, you'll see it coming. Don't worry. Like, I am worried because we can see it coming.
Safety. You have to go through the FDA approvals. Like, we're not trying to sidestep any, regulatory approvals. We're doing everything, by the book and with maximum. We're going far beyond what the requirements are of the FDA from a safety standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And the initial devices will really just be a pretty basic it'll be about restoring functionality to people who've lost their connection between their brain and their body. So you can imagine, like, if, say, Stephen Hawking could talk or communicate as fast as somebody with a fully functioning body.
Mhm.
That would be amazing. So that's like what we're trying to do. That's our first application, is to restore functionality to quadriplegics, tetraplegics, and people who've just, for whatever reason, no longer have a connection between, or a limited connection between their brain and their body.
Mhm.
And then the second application would be restoration of eyesight. So if somebody's gone completely blind, maybe even has lost the optic nerve, you can actually still directly stimulate the neurons in the visual part of the cortex. So you can give direct vision to the brain.
Mhm.
I sometimes wonder if Elon Musk is actually like an AI generated like robot himself.
In fact, you could actually, depending upon what cameras you use, you can actually see in different wavelengths.
Okay.
You know, like
wow.
Geordie LaForge from, like, you know, you could like have that, like, I actually watched like an episode of Star Trek Next Generation with special effects compared to what we're used to. You could see in radar if you want.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And what's the long term goal for it? Because I think myself and others, I think the first part sounds fine. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
that's like hard to argue with. You know?
Yeah. But long term, I think the concern that people have is this just leading us into this dystopian transhumanist future? Where does it go? What are the ethical boundaries of it?
Well, I mean, the thing I wanted to emphasize is that it's not going to like sort of pounce on us overnight.
Mhm.
You'll see it coming. It's going to be very slow. In fact, I really think that artificial general intelligence or digital superintelligence is likely to arrive before we have really advanced neural links. At least that's where the trend is right now.
Mhm.
So, but ultimately, the idea would be to achieve a symbiosis between our biological mind and our kind of digital mind.
Notice how when he asked him the question about is this assisting us towards a dystopian future of man and machine going wrong, he doesn't refute it in any way, and then he goes on and talks about the symbiosis of man and machine, which again, given the spiritual backdrop to what we're talking about, the relationship between the unseen realm, other dimensions, the realm that we operate in, and how man is a conduit and a receiver, transmitter of this relationship, and how he's looking for a relationship, a symbiosis between man and this digital mind. Again, it's very Star Trek-y, sci-fi lingo, but that we know that everything is of a spiritual nature first and foremost. So it's just it doesn't really alleviate any concerns in terms of him refuting that.
So we're already kind of a cyborg if you think of like your phone and your computers as an extension of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, like if you leave your phone behind, it's like you have missing limb syndrome. You're like, you know, where did it go? You know, so the phone is a kind of an extension of ourselves. Like computer is. The various applications that we use are already an extension of self. So we are already a cyborg. It's just that the interface is with our eyes and our fingers.
Yeah.
And that interface, especially output, the rate at which we can type words into a phone or a computer, it's very slow. Our input is much better because with the data rate from vision is, I don't know, many thousands of times, maybe a million times better than the rate at which we can output. So input is like maybe, I don't know, roughly a million times better than output. And so what a Neuralink device can do is improve that bandwidth, allow you to be sort of much more symbiotic with the AI extension of yourself.
Mm.
So you can think of like a human brain really could be arguably divided into two parts. One is kind of like the primitive brain, the reptile brain, it's sometimes called. It's like a sort of basic instincts, and then we've got the cortex, like the higher level thinking, planning, and that kind of thing. But the two operate symbiotically. So I haven't yet met anyone who wants to delete their limbic system or delete their cortex. Everyone's quite happy having both.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I like it the way it is, But your cortex is way smarter than your limbic system. But the irony is that even though the cortex is...
I mean, he's not an unlikable guy in his demeanor and the way in which he speaks. He's clearly incredibly intelligent, very smart, can articulate his points really well. So that makes it stranger because, again, when it says in the scriptures that Satan comes as an angel of light, it's not some horned beast like, it's come. It can come through somebody who does come across as well-meaning and articulate and charismatic, shall we say, to a certain extent, which is interesting given that, like, there isn't a guy in the world who's had this much coverage, this much access and influence over modern events. So the plot thickens.
Is way smarter than the limbic system. Most of what it's doing is trying to make the limbic system happy. It's like limbic system's hungry. Okay, let's get some food.
Mm-hmm.
The limbic system is horny. Okay, let's have sex or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, the sheer amount of effort the cortexes of all the humans have put into trying to get laid is insane.
That's got to keep the species going.
Yeah, but not even if it's not for procreation. Like the limbic system is really like too simple to understand that like sex does not result in procreation, because for almost all of human existence that it did. Birth control is a very recent thing. So the limbic system is like trying to incent procreation, and but now we can effectively hack the limbic system by doing procreation, by having sex without procreation. Mm-hmm. So, which is, I guess, maybe part of the issue with why do we have more kids? Is like in the past it would just happen because in order to make your limbic system happy, you'd have sex. You didn't have birth control, so if you'd pop out some kids.
Yes.
So that's how it used to be. So even though you've got a cortex that's way smarter than the limbic system, the cortex is still basically just trying to make the limbic system happy. And then if you think of like the computers as a sort of a third layer, the AI is a third layer. It's not necessarily the case that the AI would be acting contrary to our interests. I think if it's closely linked with our biological intelligence, I think it could actually be just simply, again, trying to make the cortex happy, which is trying to make the limbic system happy. So I think we'll put even more computing power to try to get laid, basically. Now the AI is going to help you get laid.
I think what it is that concerns people about it, number one being new, but I think the main thing is the fact that this is something that's like inside your body, right? I think the idea of putting a chip in, the idea of someone putting a chip in my brain, I just have a visceral no, right? Like I have a very,
it's
visceral reaction.
It's an optional thing. I mean, we're not going to,
Would it be though long term?
I hope so. I think it should be optional. Yeah, it'd be bizarre if it was not. No, I think it's
kind of like how. The reason I ask is because smartphones right now are sort of optional, but if you don't have a smartphone, the way everything is sort of designed around society, you cannot have a smartphone, but it's a massive hindrance and disadvantage in many ways.
True. A smartphone is almost essential in a modern society to do things.
Yeah. So could a Neuralink end up in that same sort of place?
It's possible, but I'm just saying, if it does, it's many decades from now. So it's not like, it's not today's problem.
Yeah.
I'd worry a bit more about digital superintelligence. I'd worry about let's try to avoid World War III.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we're at least having enough kids to sustain our population. Basic stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the interview goes on. But it's just some very heavy deflecting, as he said at the end there. That's not necessarily today's problem. It could happen further down the line. And, am I suggesting that this guy is the Antichrist demon techno wizard who's facilitating? I really don't know. But he certainly is deflective in answering the long-term effect of what these inventions and what these moves and the implications of the future. And I think, one element, the main element is, as I said, about intentionality. How much is he aware of his role in this transhuman agenda? Is he a guy who's just doing his level best with the intelligence and the resources around him, trying to make the world a better place? Or is he a high-ranking, high-level sorcerer from a serious bloodline or family? Like, it's really quite hard to tell, and it's like, well, why are we talking about mysticism? Why are we talking about Kabbalah specifically? And it's like, for my money, it's the underpinning foundation to the spiritual backdrop to what's taking place. And I'm not being anti-Semitic or besmirching of nothing like that. It's because Kabbalah is so wide-reaching, and it's so interwoven into a lot of philosophies. It's accessible to a lot of different people groups, and I believe a lot of the high-ranking elites in this world, whether it be in Freemasonry or royalty or bloodlines, they are familiar with Kabbalistic principles and operate under the tenets of these mystical moves. And it is all of an Antichrist spirit, essentially. It's just a curious question as to how aware and signed up to the agenda that they are. I mean, if you're in Freemasonry, at some point you're going to look at the play sheet and go, oh gosh, I realize whose side I'm on. I might want to get out of here. If you're in the music industry, you might realize, oh gosh, I'm at this point. And then, so everything is facilitating and moving towards God's will on this earth. So that gives me hope and comfort that although this is a satanic device, this is a move of the enemy, it does not negate the story and the redemption of the gospel message and God's redemptive plan for the world. It doesn't take away any of that. However, we can see some very key shifts and key moments taking place in the world today. So, with that being said, I think we'll just finish off on this last section from the book, and it's in the conclusion. So, seeing through the singularity connects our core themes: biopolitics, communitarianism, human purification, and cosmic gateways with the practices and ultimate directive of the cosmic conspiracy, which is the technological singularity. Our objective has been twofold. First, to provide a conceptualization of singularity within the larger project of biopolitics. Second, to identify within this conceptualization an operative solidarity between biopolitics, biblical theology, and theosophy, specifically Kabbalah. The thesis of this book is that the singularity must be considered within this framework in order to appreciate the striking correspondences between biopolitics, theology, theosophy, and the prophetic post-human spiritual destiny of man. So surmising that all things are connected and there is an underpinning to that. We have argued that biopolitical projects such as eugenics, molecular and digital revolutions are directed towards the inversion of the cosmic order through the inversion of logos. And as we've moved from analog to digital in this modern age, we see a further distancing man's relationship to God on the whole. A lot of this digital age is facilitating this stronger degree of separation. Now, our purpose for uncovering the cosmic conspiracy has been to cast bodies, minds, and spirits towards the singularity of creation, intention, and order, which is the Logos, which is the true light of the world. And we'll just close here with John 1, 1-5. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was God. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. So, the singularity, the technocratic state that we live in, the movers and the shakers in that movement. And just to emphasize the gospel message that Jesus is the light of the world, that he came to save us from our sins, to save us from the damnation that we deserve, and that no feat of man, no operation of the enemy is ever going to circumnavigate man's access to God through salvation in Christ Jesus. All of these wicked wiles and plans of the enemy are fascinating to witness, and I think it's important to discern that the times that we're in, and to arm ourselves with this information so that when we are out in the world, whether it's in the workplace with familiar friends and family, that we can have these conversations, that we're not completely ignorant, and that we can talk about our faith, that we can talk about the redemptive plan of God in the world, and how there is this deception taking place. That probably comes with a warning, because sometimes it can be like you're riding the tinfoil hat brigade a bit, but that is what it is. But it's a fascinating insight, and again, such a vast topic. I couldn't possibly condense it into one show, but again, I advocate for any points, anything that we've covered today. Do your own research, have a look into it. As ever, if you've got any suggestions, if you've got any points, anything that I may have missed or got wrong, by all means, hit me up, give me some feedback. It's most welcome. So that's it. From our house to yours, this was the Upper Room After Hours. Much obliged for you for joining me, and God willing, we'll see you soon. Take care. God bless. We love you lots.